Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you for inviting me as a chief guest. Thank you, General Saab, for allowing us the opportunity to share our views, our perspective today. Ladies and gentlemen, fellow Pakistanis at home and abroad, and friends of peace who watch us from across continents. When my grandfather, Shaheed Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, stood before the world, he spoke with the moral authority of a young republic, unwilling to be dictated by the powerful and the cynical. He told the mighty that history stands with those who dare, not those who drift. Today, in his spirit, I rise to remind the world that Pakistan is not drifting through the storm of global terrorism. We are steering the prow, often alone through waves that would have capsized many a larger vessel. We did not invite this carnage. Yet when terror's black banners crossed our frontiers from the peaks of the mountains to the bazaars of Quetta, we chose not to flinch. We chose to resist. In the grim arithmetic of the last 2.5 decades, Pakistan has buried 92,000 sons and daughters, soldiers and civilians alike. Our economy has forfeited more than $150 billion in lost growth, shattered infrastructure, and displaced livelihoods. And we still fight, because the alternative is to surrender, and surrender is not a word in the Pakistani dictionary. Just the year gone by, 2024, was our deadliest year in a decade. At least 685 of our service members embraced martyrdom in 444 separate attacks. 1,612 Pakistanis, teachers, traders, traffic wardens never came home. These are not mere statistics. They are vacant chairs at breakfast tables, yet each tragedy steals our resolve. Because every falling comrade plants a flag that drives deeper into the soil the extremists covet but will never own. Let us be clear. Any so-called Shura may issue threats in Pashto, but its digital propaganda is subtitled in every language of discontent. A bomb in Peshawar today draws its ideological fuse from the chat room somewhere in northern Africa. Its wiring diagram from a tutorial filmed in Damascus. Terrorism is borderless, and therefore the fight we wage is not Pakistan's private quarrel. It's a civilizational self-defense on behalf of all of humanity. When the Tehreek-e-Taliban or the Majid Brigade tweets its manifesto, the algorithm that amplifies it does not stop at the Duran line. It ricochets through Paris, Perth, and beyond. If we stand down, who will stand up? Across 2 decades, Pakistan's armed forces, backed by an iron-willed citizenry, have broken the backs of Al-Qaeda networks, dismantled so-called caliphates in the name of Daesh or anybody else, and driven the TTP from fortresses to the foxholes. Operation Zarb-e-Azb drained the northern swamp. Radd al-Fasad uprooted the sleeper cells in our cities. Today's operations in Balochistan and elsewhere sever the nexus between separatism and foreign-funded terror. These campaigns are not video-gamed stories from offshore carriers. They were boots in the dust, medics in the mud, and school teachers reopening classrooms behind the front lines. The world enjoys the light of conferences that debate violent extremism. Pakistan battles these demons daily on the front lines. Our roads scarred with IED and suicide bomber craters are the tariff we pay so the rest of humanity may commute in peace. Is it too much to ask that the visa desks respect the Pakistani passport that guards their peace? That multilateral lenders price our courage into their risk models? That media houses spell Pakistan without the lazy prefix of troubled? Respect is the minimal dividend of sacrifice. And for across the Durand line, the Taliban regime was greeted by many as inevitable fact. They promised the neighborhood stability. They delivered instead a 40% surge in militant attacks on Pakistani soil and a sanctuary for the TTP, the BLA, the ETIM, and so much more. We say to Kabul, sovereignty confers duty. Stop the exodus of fighters, choke the traffic of arms, and honor the blood-priced Doha commitments, or be judged by the company you keep. I would like to propose some points for Pakistan and the conscientious world. One, we need equitable burden sharing. Terrorism, CT Finance, what used to be known as the Coalition Support Fund, cannot be a tip left on the table of counterterrorism. We ask for structured investment in counterterrorism, in counter-violent extremism, in modern technology and weaponry, the hardware for our resilience. And to view development as an antidote. Every school built in Waziristan is a bullet we never have fired. Let CPAC be joined by PeacePAC, a people's economic and cultural corridor that funds micro-enterprise, women's colleges, and solar grids in areas facing the brunt of this new wave of terror, from ex-Fata to the shores of Balochistan. No counterinsurgency has achieved victory without first winning hearts and minds. In the context of the fight against terrorism in Afghanistan and Pakistan, I recall when Shaheed Mohtarama Benazir Bhutto was campaigning anew to confront this menace. Well, she warned in Pakistan in her final speech that these militants want to remove Pakistan's flag from SWAT, and rallied her country as the first female prime minister when many male politicians cowered or shirked from their responsibility to speak out. She rallied her country and she said she would be the one to lead. She would be the one to raise Pakistan's flag in SWAT. She did so in a context. And the context was a global understanding about the next phase to combat violent extremism and terrorism within Afghanistan and Pakistan. Of course, it meant joint resolve and kinetic operations that we would ultimately begin in South Waziristan and North Waziristan, etc. But that kinetic action was to be coupled with investment in the hearts and minds of the people of Afghanistan and Pakistan. Within the context of what the shared experience of the end of the World War II and the international community's commitment then to a Marshall Plan that saved or invested in the economies of a war-torn Europe to ensure future generations would not be drawn back into the mouths of, at the time, fascism. A similar commitment was made by the international community to her, to Pakistan, to the world, that we'll stand shoulder to shoulder with you in this fight, but we will not cut and run. We will invest in a new Marshall Plan for Afghanistan and for Pakistan to ensure that future generations are not lost to the menace of terrorism. So, of course, we all are aware that we have not lived up to that commitment. in the current context, it still means that we should find our own opportunities. That is the context in with which President Zardari initiated the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. It wasn't geopolitics. It was an understanding that the eastern route that was to go through Pakhtunkhwa and descend into Balochistan would drive economic development and economic activity in those areas that were the most devastated by terrorism. So whether today it is in a multilateral context or by focusing on our own economic opportunities, we need to provide our people, the people of Pakistan, with hope through economic opportunities so they're not drawn back towards this menace of terrorism.